Hi, my name is Karina Harney, Playboy's Playmate of the Year, 1992.
And I'm Echo Johnson, Miss January, 1993. Welcome to the Bunny Chronicles.
Let's go.
Don't we? Hey, girl.
Hi, Echo.
How's it going?
Good.
What's been happening?
Well, I got a great Uber from the airport. And here we go.
Here we
All right.
So today we have David Mecey coming on the show. And when was the last time you saw David?
Oh, my gosh. Well, actually a couple months, but it's been a while. Yeah.
In person? Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, my gosh. There he is.
He's right
I
here.
didn't even see him there.
All right, let's do a quick intro so all y'all know who this wonderful person is that is joining us. So David Mecey worked at Playboy for 24 years as a staff photographer. He was hired in 1980 by the company. Hello.
Yes.
You're
I'm looking at him.
Staring
Sorry,
at the camera.
No, I'm
She's
staring.
like, I look so
I'm staring
pretty.
at David I'm staring at David. Yes, him. We have a screen in front of us, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm watching David. Yes.
So David worked out of the Chicago offices initially. How many years did you work out of the Chicago offices, David?
All through the 80s. I moved to LA Jan 1 of 90.
That's right. So you were in Chicago for a good decade, and then you were able to come West Coast and work with the editor on the West Coast, which is Marilyn Grabowski.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just gonna kind of just free flow here, and
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and just just the whole point of this is
honestly, this is our second interview, and if we just go back through everything that we talked about and some of the things that we discussed with you and that you brought up. Of course, this whole podcast is our homage to Hef and all of the different lives that were touched by him, or that obviously you were a big part of Playboy. And so I think the first thing we asked you before, and we'll ask you again, how did you end up in the Playboy family as what? How do you want to know how he started as a photographer, even way back?
No.
Okay, let Echo do this. I don't know what I'm doing, David. I have no idea. No clue.
Okay. We can edit this part out.
No, we can keep it. Echo,
Okay.
go.
Here, take the paper.
Oh my goodness.
I can't.
Okay, it's okay. All right, let's see.
So David started working with Playboy in the 80s in Chicago.
He got hired as a staff photographer.
Right, and as a staff photographer, explain what that position actually entailed. Were you shooting Centerfolds? Were you doing the Newsstand Specials?
Well, at first, actually, I started freelancing for Playboy in the late 70s, 1978 and 1979. I was freelancing when I was still living in Texas. In fact, in a very small town in East Texas. It was it was pretty amazing because my photography had only been going for maybe 4 or 5 years. 5 years. I started in late 1973, early 74, teaching myself photography. And by 77, 78, I was already beginning to freelance for Playboy. And that was due to the fact that I had photographed a girl from Shreveport, Louisiana, and she was supposed to be flying to Chicago.
That's right.
Yeah.
For Playmate, and she carried my film with her.
Okay. And we won't be this much of a nightmare every time. Just right now.
Okay, so let's go back. All right, today we have David Mecey, one of our
And we were just talking about how David Mecey started in 1980 as a staff photographer. And his very first...
I thought he was a janitor at the building.
Yes, he was a janitor, and he found a girl in the bathroom.
and
he said, "Can I take your photos?" It almost went in another direction.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 24 years, 22 years, 24 years, David.
About 24.
Yeah.
I started actually freelancing for the magazine in the late 70s, 1977, 78.
And you had an injury, right?
I'm sorry?
You had an injury that pulled you out of the game.
What's very interesting, and I'll throw this in here as a little bit of trivia. The reason I got into photography was actually due to my doctor. In 1972, I was in a really bad motorcycle crash and I couldn't walk for nearly a year.
Right.
And the doctor who was treating my injury on my leg, my ankle, was an amateur photographer, and I was an artist before I was a photographer.
Right.
So I was bringing in my artwork and showing him every month when I'd go in for my checkup. So one month he said to me, you should buy a camera instead of making people sit for you to draw them. Okay. So after I was able to walk again, I bought a camera, started teaching myself photography. Well, let's go forward now to current time. I'm going back to Texas in just a couple of weeks for my high school reunion.
Oh, how fun.
And that same doctor that got me to get into photography is still alive.
Oh, you have to go
and
see
I'm,
him.
I'm going to see him. We've been talking via email, and I'm going to see him. His name is Dr. Hilliard, and it's amazing. I mean, full circle.
He must have been a young doctor too back then.
He was probably in his early 30s at the time. I think he said now he's in his late 80s, maybe early 90s, and he's still alive. And he's no practicing any longer, but I mean, he's still alive.
And he pointed you in the whole direction.
I mean, talk about God's divine intervention that occurs.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so for me to be able to go back and see him and thank him, I'm taking him a book of my work.
Nice.
He doesn't know this, of course. I'm taking a book of my work.
We're going to send him this.
I'm gonna take him to dinner. I mean, whatever. I mean, I can't wait to see the man. We've been talking via emails. It's just amazing.
He's who put you on the path. And Echo and I have talked about this over and over again. It gives me goosebumps that I think a lot of people that ended up in the Playboy family, it's a story like that. It's like being set on a path.
And I mean, and think about this, David. I mean, as strange as it is, had you not had that accident, who knows if you actually would have ended up working full time with Playboy.
Some of the most legendary photos from him.
Yeah.
And now there's another little bit of trivia. Let's go forward to late 1979. I'm in Dallas. I'm freelancing for Playboy at the time, and Jeff had wanted me to go to Dallas to an auto show where there were 5 playmates, one of whom was Dorothy Stratton. Yes. And so I was just freelancing, and I was taking photos of the girls signing up on a table. They took a break, went back to the green room, and I was invited to go back with them. Now, I had not met any of the playmates at the time. So I go in, and I'm like the shy young guy, and I'm over across the room from where all the girls are, and they're all laughing and going, and I'm not making this up. Dorothy looks over and sees me and smiles. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Dorothy Stratton. And she was already Playmate of the Year, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, I'm sitting there on the floor, and she starts walking toward me, and I'm freaking out. Oh my God, that's Dorothy Stratton. She's coming to me. What am I going to say? So I stand up, she comes over and she goes, hi, I'm Dorothy. What's your name? And I go, David. And she goes, and she said, do you work for the newspaper? And I go, no, I'm here for Jeff Cohen. Oh, I love Jeff. Da, da, la, la, la. She goes, so you work for the magazine? I go, well, I'm freelancing. She goes, and this is what she said, honestly. She goes, welcome to the Playboy family. And she goes, girls, come over and meet David.
I mean,
and they all come over and met me and talked with me. It was amazing. And that was another moment that really sort of set my goals to continue to work for the magazine. She was so sweet, so nice.
Everyone said that about her.
Absolutely amazing. You know, actually, it's interesting that you are telling us this story, because I had thought about this and then I forgot about it, but until I brought it up. We need to do a show on Dorothy Stratton and who she was as a reference point, and we could play it before David's interview.
Okay.
That would be, or do it before David's interview. That would be
that
really
must have been even more
devastating,
her having touched your life, because she did. I mean, she obviously
and then it was
affected
the
you.
next, only a few months later that she was gone.
That travesty. Such
I mean, it was
tragedy.
just
What was
awful.
that like when you heard the news? It's surreal. It's
was
so
surreal.
gruesome and
Yeah,
brutal.
it was unbelievable. And I just because I had met her only months prior, and she was so sweet to me and made me feel welcome to Playboy.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to hear this, I was just like, how could that happen? And
Man.
so, I mean, I was in Chicago at the time, I think, and it was just, everybody was devastated. I mean, it was like a very strange time when that all went down, and it lingered.
I guess, yeah, absolute nightmare. And I guess we could just kind of do a quick little bit on who Dorothy Stratton was for viewers that are watching this and may not know. So Dorothy Stratton was Playmate of the Year in 1980, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was just adored and loved by everybody, and Hef, obviously, and she became Playmate of the Year, and she had this really atrocious man that she was with, and he ended up murdering her and then killed himself. So it was a murder-suicide, and just right when she was just barely taking off, and it was just the end of a beautiful young life. So, but we'll do more on that.
And there have been movies made about it.
The Star 80,
yeah.
movie was with Eric
and so I mean, it was, and they continue to talk about it to this day at times.
Sure.
And the sad thing is that the media, being as the media, but continue to come up and try to dredge up all the bad stuff,
right?
Instead of talking about all the positive things she was and who she was. And she was an amazing person, obviously, because I mean, I was blown away by the fact that she literally walked across the room to me and introduced herself to me and made me feel so comfortable and welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I would have never gone over to them.
And she really was a rising star. She was one of
she
those
would have been
that
huge.
Was ready to hit, in movies. And
she was the epitome of the girl next door, like 100%, and just sweet and kind as can be from, everybody that we hear that from. So, wow.
Yeah, that was the thing. She had no attitude. Mm-mm. She was completely real.
And she was just back from filming, and she'd fallen in love.
Who was the director?
The director
was. And what's his name? He's a big director.
You guys, we do this every time. We do this every time, and I'll know right when we leave. It's like when we couldn't
someone on your staff
Malkovich, not Malkovich.
No. We'll have to look it up.
We'll know. We'll remember.
I can Google it.
Google it, and we're all going to laugh that we can't think of his name. He's such an incredible filmmaker. He's still a legendary human
and then
being.
He went on to marry Dorothy's sister.
Yeah, and he loved her. I'm sure they both. How horrible. What. Yeah, but he loved her and she loved him. Yeah. You would just, I don't know.
Okay, I got it.
Who?
Peter Bogdanovich.
Yes, Bogdanovich.
Peter
What did I
Bogdanovich.
say? Something, bitch. Something, bitch.
You're like, I knew I had the last.
Peter Bogdanovich. Yes,
wow.
And she had just come back from filming, and they had fallen in love, and she had just outgrown this kind of creepy guy. She was so innocent, she didn't even see his creep factor until the world opened up to her.
Yeah, it was Hef that really pointed it out, actually. I mean,
I know. I heard about that.
You know why?
Always a good judge of character.
You know why? Like not men, but like boyfriends and husbands were not typically allowed at the mansion because of Dorothy Stratton and her.
Because of jealousy. Because jealousy is an evil thing.
Well, it was just Hef could tell that he was a bad person.
Yes.
Like Hef knew, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, get away from him.
Yeah.
That he was a scumbag. So anyway.
She was,
okay, so let's go back to you and at Playboy and Chicago specifically. So were you shooting Centerfolds, or you were doing
when I first started out, I was shooting pictorials for the magazine.
Okay.
The girls of whatever. Also, along with David Chan, I was shooting the college girl pictorials each year. Each fall, there would be a college girl pictorial, the girls of the Southeast Conference,
right, I remember
the girls
that.
of the Pac-10, all those. Every year there was a different conference. And I was working on those with him. And then I was also doing solo pictorials. My first one being, I think it was the women of Braniff or the women of Malbell. And then it continued from there to where I was doing girls of Texas, the girls of Alaska, and the women of Wall Street. So it just kept going. And then in 1983,
'83, was it? 80. I did a gatefold of Susie Schott.
Now you have to explain what a gatefold is, because people are not
Oh,
going
I'm
to know
sorry.
what that means.
But they
We
still
do.
called it.
Yeah.
Yes, they still called it.
That's what it was officially being called back then. It was called a gatefold because it would swing out like a gate in the magazine.
The centerfold.
But everybody thinks of it these days as a centerfold. That was the centerfold girl. Well, anyway, I used to, when I first moved to Chicago, I used to go to a place on Rush Street called PS Chicago. Rush, I think it was at Rush and State. Anyway, it was called PS Chicago. It was kind of a bar restaurant.
Right.
So this really cute waitress walked up to me, and I just started, and I was just like hyper. Yeah, I was going to find playmates, and I did find a lot of them, by the way. So, and she comes up to me, and I go, "Oh, here." I just kept watching, and she kept on, and she was adorable. And I go, "Look, here's my business card. I work at Playboy, which is just down the street from here. I think you're a playmate."
Likely story, she probably thought.
I know.
She's like,
Likely
right.
How
But
many?
I had an official card that it
That
says
gives me
photographer
a
on it.
question, not to jump ahead, but how many playmates did you discover before you even started shooting the centerfold?
One, actually, Kim MacArthur.
Oh, wow.
I found Kim MacArthur, and she was my first find in Texas. While I was still living in Texas, I found Kim MacArthur.
Aw.
And so anyway, then it was her. And then, so I told her, I said, "Look, don't call me, call this number. It's the magazine. Tell them that you met me and that David Mecey would like you to come in and talk about testing for Playmate." And she was just kind of blown away, like, "What?" And I'm like, "This is for real. I promise. Call the number." A couple of days later, she walks into the offices up on the 11th floor at the Chicago office. She comes down the hallway, and I see her. She comes right to my office, sits down, and she goes, "Well, tell me about this." And I'm like, "Well, this is what you have to do, la, 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 la." And I introduced her to Gary and everybody, and they said, "Yeah, she's really cute. Let's test her." I did her Playmate test at a house not far from the, like a red, what do they call them? Redstone?
Brownstones.
Brownstones. And it was really cute. And I did this pose of her at a table, sitting against like a desk with pencil things and all this. Light coming in a window. So that was the shot that they decided they wanted me to recreate in a centerfold. So I did my first 8x10 with her. Mm-hmm. Now, get this. I had never shot with an 8x10 view camera before. I had no idea what it was about or anything.
Yeah, now, that's right. That
all the other guys
is like next
all the other
level.
guys had gone to like freaking colleges and went to
But
these,
you
like,
understand
art
light,
school.
David. People study the light and the way you paint the light in your photos.
But this was anyway.
You just had it though. You saw that. You have that, or you don't.
So what I did was I got my assistants to meet me over the weekend, and we set up the 8x10, and I practiced how to use it. And I'm not kidding.
Right.
So that on Monday morning, when I had to do her first shoot, I was ready to go.
Wow.
But now there's better. I had no diffusion on the lens. So when the first film came back, it was sharp as a tack. Oh, and when they looked at it, they looked at it and said, "David, this doesn't look like Playboy. It's too sharp." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. You know how to make it, you know how to make it look like that, right?" I go, "Oh yeah, sure." I had no idea. So I go back
opportunity.
So I go back to my office, and I'm sitting there all concerned and everything. And so Pompeo was in the office next to me. Remember Pompeo Posar?
Oh gosh.
He was one of the he was with the magazine.
He is, yeah.
He had already started. He was already with the magazine. He was already kind of older then when I went to work for them in my 20s. So he comes to my office, he sits down, and he goes,
maybe quickly tell our viewers and our listeners who Pompeo is, just so they know.
Yeah. Pompeo started with Playboy, in the late 50s, or was it the early 60s?
He was with them, one of the longest. Yes, he's one of the longest Playboy photographers. Cool. Absolutely. His images.
So he was like already a legend at the magazine. And then Richard Fegley came along, was in the Chicago office. And to me, honestly, those were my two favorite photographers, and also my icons, and who I wanted to emulate, who I wanted to be wanted to try to be as good as them. Oh, I knew I wouldn't be, but I wanted to try. Yeah. And in fact, I I will say this, that I, to this day, shoot similar to Richard's way of doing things, which was kind of all over the place. And that's the way I've always lit, all over the place.
And
but anyway.
he's who shot me, and I'll never forget, just because you know, we don't get to interview him, but I loved him so much. And I was a baby. So when even though I was in Las Vegas, I was a Chicago girl, you know, I flew into Chicago to test with Richard, and he said, "Get me a teddy bear." He was so funny because I really was. I was 18. I was just out of high school. I had my friendship bracelets still on, and he made a joke about it. He goes, "Go get me a teddy bear. Give her a teddy bear." But he was wonderful. We became family. But yes, I mean, I understand what. Anyway, I'm grateful that I got to shoot with him. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for mentioning him. Yeah.
I have to grab something, though. This is very important.
Okay. Yeah. It is sad that Richard can't, you know, he was legendary.
Yeah.
I am grateful that I got to shoot with him. I'm grateful I got to shoot with David.
Right.
You shot with David?
Oh, yeah. I've shot with David.
Yeah.
A lot.
See, I was one of the only ones because I was.
Photos are from David.
Yeah. And I always wished that I had. But I am grateful, especially with Richard not being here. But anyway. Because I'm still going to shoot with David. I'm ready. I want to shoot with David Mecey. Uh-oh.
Wait, we lost your audio.
We lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Are you plugged in, though? Because you sound... No.
No.
This is perfect. This is going to be our best episode.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can we?
Can you hear me now?
Nope. What happened?
Now can you hear me?
Yes. Very loud and clear.
Okay, so here's what happened. So I'm in the studio and I'm standing there pondering, what the heck am I going to do about this softness, this diffusion, when in walks Pompeo. And he walks up to me and he has something in his hand. And he goes, "I hear that you're not diffusing your 8x10. We have to diffuse it. It's way too sharp." And he goes, "I get this material in Paris. And I really like you, David. And I want you to be successful." And he gave this to me. And this is the actual.
Oh my God.
I just got goosebumps.
Cool.
I always get goosebumps.
This is the material that I used on my Centerfold shots from that day forward.
I love it, David. How neat.
And I've kept it ever since. And I have goosebumps talking about this because it was so special to me. He was like, that was something no photographer would ever do for anybody, because that was like the secret. That's the secret sauce.
It's like him passing on his baton to you. That's like passing the legend, handing off the baton. Now,
pretty much, yes, that's what it was.
It does make me curious. What's one of your favorite images that he did of maybe a famous person that
it was a centerfold that he did, and I'm trying to remember her name, but she was with a jukebox, I think it was, or something. That he did a centerfold of her, and I loved it. But he did so many. But
now that we're on the topic of film, obviously Playboy used real film. That's what we shot with, and now everything's digital. And I know that you shoot digital too. But what's your preference?
Oh God,
is that a hard one?
I would, if the world were to go upside down and digital would go away suddenly, I would be one of the few people in the world that would be one of the most famous
that knows how to work with film.
Because you know what you're doing.
Film and learned on film.
Right.
Wow.
But because it's pretty much everybody's shooting everything now, and the cameras are so good, and they pretty much can just shoot whatever's in a room.
And it's easier. All of the post is it's so much.
There's so much post
for
that can be done.
You. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
back in those days,
people don't realize.
Everything had to be captured in camera, and the 8x10 saw everything.
Yeah, I imagine.
So this is what makes it so special for me to have worked for the magazine. There was the Dorothy Stratton story, the Pompeo Posar story, the story with Richard. I sent you, I think, a Polaroid of Richard and I.
Yeah, we're actually going to put that up.
Okay, I sent that because that was very special. I thought Richard was like a lighting god, and I wanted to be like him so much. I mean, I adored Pompeo.
Try
but
being on a
Richard-
raft with him in Jamaica.
I'm
Naked.
sure it's a
Done
lot
that.
of fun.
Try being in a waterfall with a bed in the waterfall and him.
Seriously?
Oh, yes. He stuck a bed in a Dunn's River Falls.
Oh, yeah,
I
shot there.
remember that everyone was yelling at him, Richard, you're going to kill us. You're going to kill her. She's going to go down. And I was right with him. I worked with them because I was like, loving this. But anyway,
so
I thought you
different.
might get a kick out of that, loving him like you do, because I'm telling you, we had a bed in a waterfall, and he went and found a bed in Jamaica, an old frame bed, and this
That's awesome.
flowing down the waterfall. And yes, he was so meticulous, and he knew what he wanted, and he would not take no for an answer. I mean, he made everybody step back. Okay, she might die, but we're getting this shot.
One of the small camera photos I sent you of Susie shot was Dunn's River Falls.
Wow.
I shot there.
That just
really?
gave me
how
goosebumps
funny. I know
again.
exactly.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I went there and
goes
shot
my
Susie
headphones.
there.
Hold on.
Wow, David.
So
Hold on.
anyway, there was all this kind of intertwining kind of thing with everybody, and then and the other part of it. Let's go back.
Wait, no,
that's picking up on the mic.
I know. We can stop it for a second and edit.
And
So
I
give
can't
me a
wait to show
second.
pictures of
Give me a second.
Richard, because this is a nice homage to Richard. I think it's
Yeah.
beautiful that you're showing your, a lot.
Respect for him.
Yes, and as
Stop for
legend.
1 second
Well,
so we
okay,
can
okay.
edit it in
She's
and
having a
out.
hot flash. We're gonna get back to
Okay.
this exact thought, because
Okay.
you're a legend and for you.
No, I
to-
wish I was. But
Well, no,
I-
you are, David. You are. Your image. You have incredible images, but it is because you learned from.
The best.
I tried
best.
to.
The creme
I
de la
wanted to be
creme.
like them.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Pompeo and Richard.
This right here.
Poor Echo. She's.
Because I'm fucking dying.
I
and
think she
can't
picked-
put anything over my
Edit this
ears.
out. She picked up street drugs. I told her not to. I was terrified.
Reach drugs.
There was a man. I don't know. I was running. I ran.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh
here we
my
are.
God.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
That's okay.
No apologies necessary. We're here.
Since you were in the Chicago office, did you work with like Hef much or get to have much encounters?
Not
personal
really.
encounters with
Not
him?
really, because not until I went actually out to LA did I have any real encounters with him, other than the time he came to Chicago in the 80s unannounced and walked into the studio. And while I was shooting a Centerfold, by the way.
Wow, that's such a cool what?
And
Yes.
I think I sent the photo to you last time.
yep, that's the
And
one
he
when
walks
he's looking down.
And he
That
had
was
the
your
Pepsi.
first time that you met Hef. The
Absolutely
very
it
first
was.
time you met.
Were you like, oh
God.
my god?
Well, yeah. I mean, what happened was I was shooting it, and then all of a sudden the model, who was facing this way behind, I was facing her. She's like, mouth comes up, and I go,
I bet.
"What are you doing?" And she's just like seeing a ghost, right? I'm like,
Aw.
and I turn, and it's him and his assistant walking toward me. I'm like, shit, that's Hef. And I'm like, Mr. Hefner, how are you? He goes, hi, I'm Hef. Hi, sir, I'm David Mecey. He goes, shooting a gatefold, I see. And I go, yes, sir. And he goes, well, do you have something you can show me? I'm like, yeah, I have a Polaroid. And I
Right
take him over
here.
to the table. And that's when they were looking at it. And he's got his Pepsi can. And he's like, oh, this is a nice start. And I go, thank you, sir. And anyway, that was it. That was how I met
That's
him.
wild. I mean, talk about like a unique experience, because that never occurred probably ever to
You're like,
anybody
there's-
except you.
There's
It
the boss.
was like
The boss.
bizarre.
So
He's
that-
real.
That's an awesome
He's
Hef
real.
story. He really is real. I
He's
swear.
real.
I
There he
saw
is.
him. He walked
No.
in the studio.
Thank goodness.
Was he wearing his
photographer-
bathrobe? Did he have his pipe?
And so thank goodness his photographers shot it, and I ended up somehow getting a copy of it. Thankfully, they were nice enough to give me a copy
Yeah,
of it.
such a great photo.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
otherwise, if I told that story, people are like, "Yeah, sure, he
I
did."
know.
Right. They're like,
Aw.
But I have proof. I have
So-
that picture.
Should we ask him now or in closing, because we had a quicker one right now?
Kayla, how much time do we have left? Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
let's go-
My clock was
um,
wrong. We can snip this up. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's why I was feeling that.
Here, go. Let's
Okay.
do this. Let's
Okay.
do that. And then,
But those are great. This is so great.
Yeah.
David.
So we're going to ask some standard questions. Do you have any like standout memories of like photo shoots with Playmates or like events with
Oh, God.
Playmates or anything in particular?
Well, I mean, there, I have to say hundreds. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, every photo shoot that I went on, it was like a new adventure for me. I was like, God, I started in my 20s, and I was just, it was like, it was surreal. I mean,
I bet.
And I always thought of myself, honest to goodness, as just a photographer. I never thought of myself as a Playboy photographer. I never blew that up or anything. Yeah, because well, for one thing, the standards were so high.
Yeah.
I was always just under stress thinking, oh shit, am I going to,
it was work. It's work.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can't screw this shoot up. I've got, I could be on my game. And it was every time I went out to do a photo shoot, be it at the studio, be it out on location somewhere in the world. And it was always in the back of my mind, because you have to realize this too. Playboy never did reshoots. We never did reshoots. So when we were sent to do a pictorial, you did it. You came back with finished product, beautiful images of every woman you photographed, or it was
next. Yep, next. It was done.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
and that's one of the things that, I mean, that's what all of the guests say is like the caliber of work that Hef expected. And would demand out of everybody, but he also was an expert in terms of putting the people in the right positions where he knew that they
spared
meet
no
his demands, but spared no expense to get that.
But that's why he knew if this doesn't work, there's a reason why.
Yep.
When I went and tested in Chicago, it was an interesting thing. It was a beautiful set. And it was just my test photo, but they were doing a Playmate pictorial. And it was, I mean, I had never seen such an elaborate set. I've done movies now, and I have yet. Do you hear the sirens? They're coming to get us. I have yet to see. Sets as elaborate and as beautiful and so well lit and every detail. Well, a girl wasn't working on this bicycle. It was a bicycle, as if it was in a French cafe. I mean, it looked like it was a bicycle in front of a French cafe in Paris, and it was beautiful.
A sunny day. And
yes, and the poor girl that they were shooting, didn't work, and it was something.
How hard would that hurt if you got denied?
And so then they said, you know what? Instead of tearing it down, we'll just use it for the test shoot. You know, that was my test shoot. Was on the bicycle that the poor girl didn't work out.
Would you say? And I'm sure the answer is going to be yes to this, but. Working for Playboy, the amount of years that you did, and this is actually an interesting factoid. So everybody that we've interviewed thus far, and this just speaks volumes to the company and to Hugh Hefner as a man and as a boss, mentor, whatever you want to call him, your ability to produce what you produce now at this era in your life and this career that you have been in now for what, 3 decades?
Yeah, 4 decades.
If it was not for Playboy, do you expect that your work would be as classic and on point as it is?
No. I think that Playboy was my university and my, I guess you'd call it doctoral in photography that I received while going there and working for that magazine.
Right.
It was one of those things where you had to step up. And I had to go above and beyond where my ability was when I first started to work for the magazine. And I knew that. And I would come in. And one of the reasons I got hired was when Playboy brought me to Chicago in early 1980 and put me up at the Drake for a month. And that's
where we would always stay.
Yes, or the Knickerbocker. Yeah. I got to stay at the Knickerbocker.
and so I was there all that time. So not only did I go to the office every day, on the weekends I would go in and practice my lighting. And they saw that and they realized that this guy really wants this. And that's when I got asked to come to work for him. So and that was one of the things and I never took it for granted. I never took any photo shoot for granted.
And that must feel so. it's such a testimony to your work and your work ethic, because he did.
Your work ethic.
Absolutely.
For sure.
It was loyalty and it was perfection. Everybody who we have spoken to thus far says the same thing, that Hef brought them to a level they didn't even know was inside of them. That's been fascinating to hear.
I mean, we were literally just saying right now when we were getting our hair and makeup done that just having the professional Playboy makeup artist on hand, the difference that it makes on us for us to show up to set. And then when we have done other, jobs, gigs, whatever, it's just like nothing compares.
Sadly.
And again, it's just the caliber of when you work for and with Playboy, you're the best of the best.
Yes,
it just is.
Yes.
And that was the thing that a lot of people, when I would travel, they would ask me, first off, when I would travel, everybody would say to me, you're not anything like I thought you'd be. Because I was like super nice and sweet. I was like a sweet guy. I was raised that way.
You're a Southern boy.
I was a Southern boy. And so when they would meet me, they're like, you're not wearing gold chains and, open shirt and all this kind of stuff.
Funny people have those funny ideas.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm just a regular guy. I just happen to be a pretty decent photographer. And they're like, yeah, but that's like, Jesus, that's not what we thought you were going to be. But that's what made us also different from everybody else. We were not the perception. We were way beyond the perception. Right. And that's why we were so successful at photographing women without their clothes on and making them feel comfortable while doing so. Right. And that's what made the magazine great. And that's something that I am hoping to try to continue, by the way. And I'm going to throw this little plug out there.
Oh, no,
I wouldn't even say hoping. I would say
please plug whatever you're doing.
It's going to be.
David Mecey, tell us about everything your legendary self is doing.
Spill the beans, honey.
Tell the world what David
I'm
Mecey
working on
is bringing.
Something that I don't want to say what it is exactly because I don't want to jinx it. But it would be something that would involve my photography, which I think right now is at the pinnacle. It's the best I've ever done, to be honest.
Wow.
I'm way above where I was.
The girls just aren't as good because they're not playmates.
They're just not.
I'm just totally kidding. I'm kidding to anyone who was shot with him. I don't want anything.
But I'm going to be finding girls that are of that equivalency. Believe me. Well, you see the girls that I photograph that I post on Facebook?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
so I still have that ability to find that quality.
Yes, yeah.
And to work with them. So I'm hoping to maybe somewhere down the road be able to assemble something and do something that's going to be my legacy beyond being a Playboy photographer, maybe something else. And that's all I can say for now.
Okay. When this thing comes out, you will be coming back on the show.
Yes, I will.
I know what it is, and I'm totally confident it's going to be a home run.
Well, we're excited for you, David, and for everything that you're doing. We really are.
So we have, we like to wrap up our interview with 2 questions for everybody.
Okay.
You go first.
Well, the 2 questions are,
so it's 3 words that describe. Yeah, and 3. Yes, if you were able to say anything.
So 3 words that describe Hef. First of all, and then we're going to ask you to say anything that you could have said to him in his, in memoriam or to his face before he passed.
Before he passed?
Yeah.
Well, you did read
my opportunity.
You read my obit that I posted on Facebook, right? When he did pass in 2017, where I said Playboy was Hef and Hef was Playboy. That's what I wrote. And that's what I would have said to him.
And it absolutely, yes.
It's true.
No other person could ever fill his shoes,
and the 3 words would probably be ultimate entrepreneur. That's 2 words. Sorry.
That's fine.
Brilliant.
Yes.
And the 3rd one, brilliant, and just a mega star among all the publishing people that's ever been.
Yeah.
I think people, especially the media, has kind of taken him too lightly and or looked at only on the dark side of things and tried to bring out the dark side of
That's what
things.
media does, and that's why
Which
we're
this
doing
is
this.
exactly why we're doing this, David. Because for someone to make it, and I'm a capitalist, sorry, but
So am I.
when
Absolutely.
someone makes it to that level and builds an empire
from nothing,
Correct.
from an idea,
yeah.
and it also helps shape some wonderful things in American
society
history.
and culture as we know
Who's
it today.
truly an icon, one of the few icons of American history from the 50s on.
How can you not?
How can
Who
you just
actually
act like he was no
Yeah.
big deal
Yeah.
and cancel? You
Yeah.
know,
Well, I'm sorry that
Who
weird,
actually-
not
weird
going to
lifestyle
apply. No.
or whatever people are saying.
Yeah, this
Hey,
cancel culture bullshit. No, it
you
does
know,
not apply. This is
freedom
history. This is
and-
history. This is facts. This is what occurred. This is who he was.
Yes.
This is what he did.
So that's what we're
and if
doing.
you have a problem with it, then go on or actually learn about it and learn something that's actually fascinating.
Yes,
You know?
He
instead of
also
forming.
was
Yeah.
instrumental in breaking down the racial barrier.
Absolutely.
He had black entertainers at all the Playboy clubs
Yeah.
before anybody.
when it was real segregation.
Such an advocate.
Oh, yeah,
real
it was
racism,
unbelievable.
like horrible black
He was
water
just an
fountain,
advocate
white.
for human rights, period.
And not
Whether it
only
was,
when
like,
women
civil
were
rights,
not being
equal
paid
rights,
what
yeah.
men were
Yeah.
being paid, not only would he put women, but black women in
Mhm.
positions
Mhm.
that
BJ,
it
remember
was.
BJ?
Oh yes, I love BJ. Oh,
I mean,
BJ.
I know.
Yeah.
God bless you. We wish you were here. Mwah.
Yeah,
he had
race relations.
women in the upper echelons of all the different parts of Playboy's company. Everything from the advertising to
Yeah.
publicity to editorial.
To butleresses at the
class act,
Yeah.
hands down. Well, he didn't look. And the way we should be as human beings. He didn't
Yeah.
look at color. He didn't look at the times. He was
No.
ahead of his time. And it
Right.
seems that for the most part, he was on the right side of history.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why people aren't looking at that with Hugh Hefner, the man, because really he was. And the more we find out, you hear of, he would never go around tooting his own horn about any philanthropy he was doing.
No,
he
was so humble.
He would never say, and everyone who we've spoken to, he would never say, I did this.
No.
I had Sammy Davis Jr. when no one would have him. And he wouldn't say those things because it was just right. And he saw talent and he saw skill. And he didn't do that as a statement. He didn't say, I'm going to hire women and black women. No, if he saw someone with talent, like we were saying, puts the right people on the team is why he had such a very powerful, living, breathing brand and empire.
It's the people
absolutely.
that
Because he
behind
did
it,
the
yeah.
right thing when it came to, he didn't look at what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I love it.
It was a time when this was not even expected to happen,
Right.
and he did it, and it blew up. And so, he basically helped change the world in a way. And they're now, I think they're wanting to bring him down a little bit. They're trying to knock him down, and like they do everybody. I mean, Jesus,
Oh yeah.
if I do what I want to do, God help me, please don't let them try to do that to me. But they will. But I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm at an age where I don't really care.
Yeah, none of us do anymore.
I just want to do something. I know there's a lot of old Playboy readers out there that would love to see a little bit of classic Playboy come back.
Mhm.
So
Well, I hope that we have
No.
tons of listeners that hear this and
That's
would
the-
like a taste of that. So
That's what we're here to do, people. Teach you
yes,
a little
we are.
Playboy history.
Yes, we are.
yes.
Well,
Preach
David,
on.
thank you so very much for
Aw.
coming on the show
Thank
again.
you,
And,
David.
You're
And,
welcome.
as
You're
soon-
welcome. I love it.
And you
I do.
sound great.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank you so much.
So you'll be back on the show for sure.
Yes.
We're gonna head into interviewing some playmates.
Oh, anybody I know?
Barbara Moore
Moore,
and
Brandon.
Oh, tell
Carrie
Barbara hi. Tell
Stevens.
Barbara hi. I want to photograph Barbara too. I hear she looks great.
She
Uh,
does,
Yeah.
but we don't. So we're not going
Yeah,
to be
you
taking
do.
photos with you. No, Barbara. I'm going to be talking to Barbara. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
So Carrie
I love
Stevens,
her.
Barbara Moore, Renee Tennyson, and Brandon.
Tell Renee hi. Tell Renee hi too.
We will.
Is Rosie going to be with her? Her
No.
sister?
Uh-uh.
No.
No,
I
she's
photographed Rosie a ton.
Oh.
Who else? Anybody else I know?
No,
Well, not
that was
today, not today, but
yeah.
but yes, we'll have more Playmate of the Year roundtables, Playmate roundtables. We're having a ball with this.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yes.
We'll tell everybody I said hello.
We
and
will.
We love you so much.
We
Thank you
love
so much
you,
for joining. We'll
David.
talk soon.
You guys take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.